Before I get into this video, I wanted to go ahead and thank you guys for all of the views on YouTube and Twitch this past month. I understand that a lot of my viewers are returning viewers who just haven't subscribed yet, and if you're finding yourself consistently coming across my videos and clicking on them, or going out of your way to find them, then why don't you go ahead and just hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Every like, every comment, and follow is always appreciated, and it makes me so happy to see all of your opinions, compliments, and support. I genuinely sit down and go back to older videos and reread comments and other stuff like that. It always makes me happy to see the interactions go through. So, anyways, with that being out of the way, let's get right into the video. So I've been seeing certain comments on Twitter and Reddit, amongst other places, talking about how the world of Wuthering Waves and activities to do in it feel empty or lackluster, or people overall complaining about whether the story is good or not. And I wanted to talk about these two things a bit more in depth. On stream yesterday, I went ahead and went on a full-on deep dive discussion about the topic of people complaining that Wuthering Waves feels empty. I figured that I'd let them know that tomorrow a video was going to be coming out explaining the opinion that I shared and why I think so many people feel like Wuthering Waves is empty or lackluster. Now, firstly, I chalked down the first few times of me seeing the comment of the world being empty simply down to someone's opinion who wanted more than what the game had to offer. Perhaps they played other open world games that had far more interesting or engaging things to do in abundance than Wuthering Waves did. Or they just didn't like the open world gacha genre's formula. But the more I saw these comments, the more I realized they were coming from people who played the game consistently. And that's when it dawned on me why these people are complaining in the way that they do. Allow me to preface by saying, I don't think the world of Wuthering Waves has nothing to do or feels too empty. We are only in its beginning stages, and I'm not expecting a tidal wave of content to do. The same goes for the actual story itself. We're only in the beginning. I can confidently say that I've been finding more things to do in Wuthering Waves than in Genshin Impact's first release, and I remember Genshin Impact's first release quite fondly, as that used to be my favorite gacha of all time when I first played it back in September of 2020. A lot of these people who claim that the world has nothing to do or feels empty are almost certainly people who blitzed their way through the story as fast as they could, and as soon as they discovered the skip dialogue button, skipped the dialogue for almost every single quest on top of running around doing all the tacit fields as fast as possible, and then grabbing chests here and there, quickly becoming bored, without exploring any of the other things to do. I think that when you're diving into an open world game in general, regardless of whether it is a gacha or not, it's a major mistake to try to rush everything in the world itself, regardless of how much of a gamer you think you are. Taking the time to explore the world built is one of the ways to consume the product. Showing some remote interest in what's being said in any of the quests at all is another good way to enjoy yourself. And if you truly aren't a story guy and truly do not care about anything that is going on with the characters or NPCs in the world, take the time to, instead of sprint around as fast as possible to 100% every single part of the map, but to take your time. Stop whenever you see any chest or challenge around any corner. Allow yourself to get stuck on a puzzle every once in a while. Games like these aren't made to be blitzed through. Games like these are made for you to enjoy yourself. Enjoy the characters and content that we get. Now, if none of those things that I mentioned interest you, then genuinely, I think that you just might be done with the open world gacha formula. Why are you even continuing to play these games if you know what to expect? When I was on stream, there were times I was genuinely taking in the beauty of the world around me, standing on cliff sides and talking with chat about the things we saw, how badass the game looked at times, to overall just things that we wanted to see. Sometimes, instead of just focusing on certain quests just to get them done, I decided to go out and about, explore and travel to landmarks that I had spotted, and even marked incredibly useful resource locations on my map. I wanted to take my time with this, because I used to make this really simple mistake of believing the faster I clear this game, that's the main way it shows my love for it. And that's just not true. I have a lot of free time on my hands, and I've been purposely taking my time with Wuthering Waves. I'm not worried about min-maxing my stats like I used to in other games. I'm not worried about making myself as strong as possible to take away the challenge that people have been claiming that they want oh so badly. While yes, I do think that Wuthering Waves is an incredibly easy to get into game for any gamer of almost any type, I think that purposely making yourself overpowered will have you sitting there asking yourself, how is this too much different from Genshin? Wuthering Waves' difficulty is a topic for another video, as I wasn't expecting it to be as hardcore as other games I've played or be ultra kill levels of hard, but it certainly was more easy than I thought, with the tactical holograms not feeling as challenging as I wanted them to feel. These tactical holograms seem like they're going to be easier than some 12Ks in Punishing Grey Raven, with their overly predictable movesets and wide parry and counter windows. But that's just my personal experience, as when it comes to something that's considered difficult, it's hard for me to acknowledge if something is hard, as I don't struggle with these types of things often. I'm sure that it's different for everyone, but I did hear from one of my viewers that there is a clone variant of the tactical hologram, which sounds like something that would be more my speed, as with how simple the movesets for the bosses are in Wuthering Waves, it just didn't seem appealing to me to just have their damage and HP increased. I do hope that we actually get some more mechanically taxing bosses in the future. Anyways, I am also not using my experience as the standard everyone should be taking the game or its difficulty as. Alright, so to get back on track, a mistake I made a few years back during when the Spider-Man games were releasing on PlayStation was I used to think that showing my love for a game meant clearing it as fast and as effortlessly as possible. And while I do think technically that is a way for you to show your love, as you put time and effort into either learning the ins and outs of the game quickly and learning the fastest routes to complete things or what have you, it leaves you having this empty feeling of, what do I do now? When Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2 came out, I went out of my way to beat and 100% trophy completion each of those games in less than 24 hours of playtime. I stayed up without sleeping on each game, hours on end trying to unlock every costume, beating every challenge with the highest score, and even beat the game on ultimate difficulty again once it got released. Spider-Man is always one of those things when I seriously consider whether or not I like it more than even Dragon Ball. Both have been a major part of my life, but I digress. When I beat all of those Spider-Man games, and I was swinging around the city doing repeat challenges over and over, I just got this sense of longing for wanting more, to explore the city all over again. I wish I could go back and take my time with the Spider-Man series in general, because I always pride myself in playing almost every single Spider-Man game across the PlayStation, PS2, PS3, and now PS4 and 5. But now I'm wishing I could go back, take my time, and really take in what those games' experiences were all about. I couldn't do that anymore. Not with these newer games that I loved, at least. Taking my time exploring other routes in things like Baldur's Gate, taking my time and really experiencing Cyberpunk's DLC, and many other games now, while now also taking my time and really taking care of my experience in Wuthering Waves. Punishing Grey Raven left me with a longing of wanting to see more. And now that we have Wuthering Waves, I can finally get a taste of that, even if we are in an entirely separate universe. I can't wait for new regions to be added, to see how horrid the Tacit Discord situation really is. Now, I do understand that some of these people are people who are rushing through the game to be able to keep up with the updates and make their very specific guide or build content, and I think that's okay, as long as they find time to also enjoy the game in the way that they want, if they aren't already. That's just their job. Now, to comment on the people who don't like the story, I don't plan on making this section a long point of discussion, so I'll just say this. Every story on Earth will either have an explosive and fast start with super quick and brief world building and character introductions, or a slow start with slow spoon-fed information about the world, its characters, and its main themes, while there are stories out there that do it at a medium pace. Many books have these three types of beginnings, and they all vary between good and bad. There is no truly perfect formula for explaining a story, as everyone has their own taste of what they like and enjoy. Some people enjoy a nice slow burn, while others want the fire to kick off immediately. When it comes to Wuthering Wave's story, I don't think that it was amazing, but I thought that it did its job. It established a portion of the world that we would be in, explained and showed off the problem in which we would be facing, introduced important characters that would be relevant for the current plot we would be directly involved in, and gave us decent build-up with what felt like an abrupt end. I think that the creature at the end of the story that came out that absorbed the Tacit Discord energy hurt Rover's overall character for what we have seen so far, and I hope to actually see if it becomes something good or is just a once-off thing. And before any idiot tries to say, wait for the rest of the story to come out before you judge, these types of games release their stories in sections, in which we wait weeks for the next act to be released. It is completely fine, normal, understandable, and encouraged to judge a product that's released, even if we have to wait for installments. They gave us this section for a reason. That's why trilogy books have a long connected story that all have different ratings. Just because part 1 of the trilogy is the beginning and doesn't conclude the entire plot and story for characters, it doesn't exempt it from being individually rated amongst the entire trilogy regardless of what part of the story it is at. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I don't think the Wuthering Waves story did anything particularly amazing. I just think that it did its job of establishing relevant information. I do hope that we are finished with the introductory section and hope to see a more deep plot and action-packed scenes in the next installment. I thought the Gion story quest was also pretty okay, as it was very predictable for me, as I read a lot of books and played a lot of story-heavy games, and overall I just like analyzing characters and stories for essays that I used to write and still kind of do, right? Gion's story quest had amazing visuals, and while the plot direction was extremely obvious, it showed off how good-natured and caring of a character he was, and how it reflects on the kind of commander he is today. I think it did a good job of making me want to see more of Gion and my female rover together again. I think that the world of Wuthering Waves isn't empty or boring. I think that the story isn't terrible, and I don't think that it's failing in any aspect aside from some voice acting issues in English. I think that this game can only go up from here as long as Kuro Games doesn't get into any more legal trouble. But aside from that, as always, I wanted to thank you all for watching, and of course, I hope you all take care and peace.